How do you coach men who struggle with low self-worth or negative self-talk?
Well, there's no
And
such thing as self-worth. Sorry, Robert.
no, go.
It's an abstract concept. But if you mean that they're stuck in powerfully suboptimum emotional states and they're constantly attacking themselves, the first thing I want them to do is get them to have a blank slate. Start them in the position of neutrality. I don't expect them to go from hating themselves to being perfectly happy with themselves in the space of a week. I will teach them a practice, a meditative practice, a self-hypnotic practice, and a practice of conquering their fears. That really the crux of it is not a lack of self-worth. It's a lack of belief that they can do things in the world, a feeling of helplessness, learned helplessness. So I will actually give them assignments. Back when I'm pretty much retired. But unless you really want to pay me through the nose for personal mentoring one-on-one, then we can give out a link. And you have to apply and you have to pay $197 just to apply. We'll refund it if I decide not to even talk to you. But be that as it may, I want to teach them a practice of challenging their fears. For example, I will challenge them to go up to a woman and say, "Excuse me, I'm working on my shame and my fear talking to women. So in 60 seconds from now," and I have them look at their watches, "will you either coldly ignore me or viciously verbally assault me? Wait, wait, go." And this is such a pattern interrupt for the women. They've told me 90% of the time the women laugh and they say, "I'm not a mean woman. I would never do that to a guy. And you seem like you're so fun and funny." They're shocked by it. And I said, "Good, do it 10 times." 10% of the women don't get mean. They just coldly ignore them and turn around. And then they learn what they learn is they can conquer their fears. By doing something absurd and fun, it sets them free. The chains fall off. And suddenly they can see that they can do things in the world that they were afraid to do before. They take on the very thing they fear with absurdity. Never underestimate the power of the absurdity and illusion to fight absurd fears and absurd illusion. I learned that from my meditation teacher who learned it from his Zen master.
But can you imagine just you saying that, what you said to us, saying just that to a woman in field, it is powerful enough for her to go, I can be myself in front of this guy. Oh my God, there's someone
Everyone
that I can
wants,
see.
everyone wants to be vulnerable, but they always want the other person to go first. So you go
That's
first and
right.
create that. I think if women can feel safe and utterly turned on at the same time, that's a very unique combination. So how can you show vulnerability and at the same time demonstrate being strong-willed and being willing to take control? It appears to be a paradox, but in paradox, there's power. I've taught this forever. In paradox, there's power. This is the same in physics. Is light a particle or is it a wave? Well, it's something that behaves as both depending on how you measure it. And that realization changed the face of physics. So I think paradoxically, being able to demonstrate vulnerability, putting your head on the chopping blocks, handing the woman the axe metaphorically and say, "Here's my head. What do you want to do?" And at the same time, conveying without saying it, you're willing to tie her up and spank her and do her in every orifice. You know, being able to demonstrate both of those is wildly attractive. That you can live in your mom's basement and be 60 pounds overweight. I wouldn't recommend it. It's hard to think well of yourself when you do it, but you see my point.
Yeah, I find being a bit cheeky gets me through a lot of things because, in a way, being cheeky is also showing your vulnerability. Of someone could be like, he's an idiot, whereas they don't. They fall into the frame of, I can be silly as well. What was funny when you were small is funny again.
It's
So
funny.
I've,
I'm sorry,
sorry,
Robert. No, I'm sorry.
what? So like loads of little things. Like I was playing with miniatures once. I just found a load of miniatures, and I had a little bottle of Coke, a little like animation miniature, and I'd rolled that in a bag, a see-through baggie, and I'd go into set like a group of people, and I'd let go of the bag, and it would roll down really long, and at the bottom I'd say, "Anybody want to? I've got a little Coke." Is what I'd say. I've got a little Coke. And then they'll go, and then they'd look carefully and go, oh. But you could see the girls that really wanted it as well going, oh. But it's a good little, reframe, it's a good joke to pull in to show I'm silly. After that, they're going to tell me anything. They're going to see me as a guy they can open up to. So loads of things like I had a miniature duck. I said, anybody fancy a duck? And then it's a little duck, and it's just stupid things that open them up to being, friendly with you and open-minded and telling you things they probably wouldn't tell anyone.
It's pretty good.
Also, another one is, but most people aren't going to do this, but I'm going to say it anyway, especially for the youngsters out there.
Forgive me,
Going on the dance.
forgive me, I'm paying my cleaning lady by Apple Pay. Go ahead,
No
Robert.
worries. And going on the dance floor and just dancing silly. I've got one called Beckster Rampage on YouTube, and I'm just dancing silly, and you see the girls gather round, and they all want to join in. There's moves for it with the scarf where you can lasso them in and so on, do the limbo. But yeah, just silly things like that. Meet in the room by doing that. Everyone's watching you, but you're also showing vulnerability at the same time. But within there, it's a fine line, a semi-rect line between that and confidence, conviction.
Interesting.
So that's one way I would show vulnerability, and it shows that I'm self-amused as well, and freedom from outcome.
I love
Uh,
that. Self-amusement, freedom from outcome.